The security alert hit red at 11:47 p.m. Someone was stealing corporate secrets right now in real time from the CEO's personal computer. Caleb Merritt had exactly 13 minutes to stop a digital heist that could shatter careers, collapse a $500 million company, and expose encrypted files that shielded some of the most vulnerable people on Earth. But when he pushed through the corner office door on the 35th floor, badge out every nerve alive, he didn't find a hacker. He found Simone Voss herself sitting perfectly still behind her desk, watching him with eyes that held secrets far deeper than anything buried in her encrypted drives. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to see exactly how far this one travels. The server suite on the 33rd floor of Apex Tower hummed with the kind of quiet that felt almost alive. Every rack of machines breathed in and out with the rhythm of cooling fans, and the monitors threw blue-white light across the walls in long, cold sheets. It felt less like an office and more like the inside of something that was always thinking. Caleb Merritt had been living in that light for 4 weeks. He was 35, medium-build, dark hair, kept short, the kind of face that crowds absorbed without registering. He'd spent years cultivating that invisibility. In his line of work, being forgettable was a skill, sometimes the most valuable one he had. Companies hired him to find their weaknesses, patch what was broken, then disappear before anyone fully remembered his name. Tonight was supposed to be simple. A routine security audit for Voss Cipher, a mid-size Atlanta tech firm that had built its reputation on unbreakable encryption software. 4 weeks of diagnostics, a final report, and then Caleb drives north to Chattanooga to pick up Lily from her aunt's house. He'd been promising that trip for 2 weeks. He checked his watch. 1:13:4 p.m. Lily was probably already asleep. Denise, his late wife's younger sister, the person who held the pieces of their family together when Caleb couldn't, had texted him at 9 saying she'd gotten Lily down early after a full day at the river. He'd planned to leave by midnight, grab coffee, drive through the dark, and be there by the time she woke up. Then the monitor flickered. It was barely anything. A half-second pause in the network traffic stream that scrolled across his screen in an endless waterfall of data. Most people wouldn't have caught it. Most automated systems didn't flag it. But Caleb had spent 15 years training himself to see the small things, the microscopic disruptions that signaled something wrong in the digital landscape. He leaned in. His fingers were already moving. Within 90 seconds, he'd isolated the traffic pattern. His jaw tightened as the data resolved into something recognizable. Someone inside the building was running a packet sniffing operation right now, actively, and targeting a very specific destination. Simone Voss's private network drive. Packet sniffing wasn't illegal by itself. It was a standard diagnostic tool. But this one had been configured with surgical precision, masked behind legitimate company traffic designed to be invisible to standard security sweeps. It would have been invisible. Would have been. Caleb pulled up the authentication logs and started peeling back layers. The credentials used to launch the operation belonged to someone with executive-level access. He cross-referenced the signature against the company directory. Raymond Tate, Chief Operations Officer. Caleb sat back and let the implications settle. He'd met Tate twice during the audit. A man who wore his authority like something custom-made, smooth voice, firm handshake, the kind of smile that arrived slightly before the warmth behind it. Late 40s silver at the temples, the particular confidence of someone who'd spent decades being the second most important person in every room and was quietly furious about it. Caleb thought about the break room conversation he'd overheard 2 weeks ago. Something about a restructuring. Something about Tate's entire division being evaluated. He'd heard the word redundant and kept walking because it wasn't his business. Now it was. He pulled up a secondary monitor and began documenting everything. Timestamps, packet sizes, destination addresses. The transfer volume was already alarming. Whoever had launched this operation had been running it for at least 20 minutes. They'd pulled 4.1 gigabytes from Simone Voss's private drive. Personnel files. Financial models, board presentation materials. Everything someone would need to walk into a meeting and tear their own CEO apart in front of the people who decided her future. Caleb checked his watch. 1:39 p.m. He reached for his phone, then stopped. Who exactly was he supposed to call? The CEO, whose computer was actively being drained, building security which might be compromised, the police who'd need an evidence chain he didn't have time to build properly. No, this required direct action. He grabbed his access badge, slung his worn canvas bag over his shoulder. He never went anywhere in this building without his tools, and headed for the elevator. The titanium USB drive on its lanyard swung at his chest as he moved cold against his shirt. He'd worn it every day for 3 years. His wife Mara had given it to him. It held his personal diagnostic software, his custom decryption, scripts, everything he needed to work fast. It was the closest thing he had to a good luck charm, and the closest thing he still had to her. He pressed 35. The elevator climbed, in silence. His reflection stared back at him from the polished steel doors, a man in dark jeans and a plain button-down, perpetually out of place in a world of tailored suits and glass corner offices. He thought about Lily. Her face in the morning when she was still half asleep, always surprised that it was already tomorrow. The way she'd hugged him at Denise's front door last Sunday, both arms squeezing hard as if she could hold him in place. "Be careful, Daddy. Always bug. I'm always careful." The elevator chimed. 35th floor. The doors opened onto a different world. Down on 33, everything was industrial, blue-white, and utilitarian. Up here, the building had transformed into something else entirely. Warm lighting over dark walnut paneling. Carpet that absorbed sound completely. Original artwork on the walls, large abstract pieces that probably each cost more than Caleb made in a year. The air itself felt different, quieter, heavier. Simone Voss's corner office sat at the end of the hall. The door was slightly open, warm light spilling into the corridor. Caleb moved quietly. He reached the doorway and stopped. The office was enormous, floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 sides, the Atlanta skyline glittering below like a circuit board lit up and breathing. Modern furniture, clean lines, a few antique pieces that somehow belonged. And behind a wide glass desk illuminated by the glow of dual monitors sat Simone Voss. Caleb had seen her once before from the back of a conference room during his orientation week. She'd given the company values speech with the polish of someone who delivered it 100 times and still believed every word. But up close, she was different. She was 43 according to her company bio, though she carried it like someone who'd simply decided age was a data point and not a verdict. Dark hair pulled back, simply sharp features that suggested both intelligence and will. A charcoal blazer over a white shirt, posture perfect even after what must have been a 12-hour day. She was focused entirely on her laptop, one hand on the mouse, the other making notes on a yellow legal pad. She hadn't noticed him yet. Caleb cleared his throat softly. Simone's head came up. Her eyes met his, a quick flash of surprise that she controlled almost immediately, replaced by the careful assessment of someone who'd learned to evaluate threats fast. Then recognition flickered. "Mr. Merritt," she said, her voice even and professional. "The security contractor. I wasn't expecting anyone else tonight. I need you to step away from the computer," he said. It came out more blunt than he'd intended, but there wasn't time for careful phrasing. Simone's expression went from measured to hard. Her fingers drifted almost imperceptibly toward the phone at the corner of her desk. "Excuse me, please," Caleb said, taking one slow step into the office, hands visible, nothing threatening about his movement. "I'm not here to threaten you, but I need you to step away from that machine right now." She stood. She was taller than he'd expected, the kind of height that didn't announce itself, just settled into a room as fact. The way she held herself communicated clearly that she was accustomed to being the most powerful person in any space she occupied. "Mr. Merritt, I don't know what you think. Your computer is being hacked," Caleb said. "Right now, someone is copying files from your private drive using Raymond Tate's credentials." The name landed like a stone dropped in still water. Simone's professional mask, the composed, measured face of a CEO who had learned to reveal nothing, slipped. Just for a fraction of a second, something raw moved behind her eyes. Shock, yes. Anger, yes. And something else that looked like it had been waiting for bad news without knowing what form it would take. She looked at her laptop screen, then back at Caleb. "That's not possible," she said, but her voice had lost something. "Our security systems would have flagged any unauthorized." "They should have," Caleb agreed. "But whoever set this up knew exactly where the gaps were. They've been pulling data for at least 22 minutes, maybe longer. She came around the desk, moving toward him, reassessing, trying to decide if he was telling the truth or if this was some elaborate misdirection. "Show me," she said. Caleb moved to her laptop, keeping everything slow and deliberate. He pulled up a terminal window and started entering commands from memory, his fingers, finding the rhythm they always found when the problem in front of him was real and the clock was running. Lines of code filled the screen. Network logs, authentication, timestamps, transfer volumes. Simone leaned in close enough that Caleb caught the scent of expensive perfume cut with coffee and the particular kind of stress that came from working too long without stopping. "I can't read any of this," she admitted. "This," Caleb said, highlighting a section of code as a packet-sniffing program. "It's been routing copies of your files to an external server." He pulled up another window. "And this is the authentication log. Raymond Tate's credentials, accessed from his office terminal at 1:17 p.m. Simone went very still. "Raymond is in Charlotte," she said quietly. "He flew out this morning." "Then someone is using his computer," Caleb replied. "Or his login. Either way." He stopped. The screen had changed. A new alert flashed in the upper corner, urgent red, the automated response system waking up and doing exactly what it had been designed to do. "What is that?" Simone asked. Caleb felt his stomach drop. "That," he said, slowly, is a problem. By isolating the outbound data stream, by doing the right thing, and stopping the theft, he'd triggered the company's automated security protocol. The system was designed to protect against exactly this kind of breach, which meant it was now doing its job, isolating every compromised terminal and initiating a full encryption cascade on the affected drives, which meant Simone's computer had just locked them both out completely. "Can you reverse it?" Simone asked. "Eventually. But the system is implementing a full lockdown on your drive files, applications, operating system, everything. It's military grade. Each layer has to be rebuilt manually." "How long?" Caleb checked the protocol timer. "The cascade completes at midnight. After that, there's a 12-hour window to reconstruct the security keys before the automated system classifies the terminal as unrecoverable. And then the system executes a complete wipe. Everything on this machine disappears permanently." The color drained from Simone's face by degrees. She sat back down in her desk chair, not the smooth, controlled motion of a CEO settling in, but the landing of someone who'd just taken a hit. "Tomorrow morning," she said, barely above a whisper, "I have a board presentation at 9 a.m. Everything I need is on this computer. 3 months of work. Financial models, restructuring proposals, client impact analysis, everything." Caleb watched her process the math. The domino effect of walking into that boardroom empty-handed. The questions it would raise. The ammunition it would hand to people like Raymond Tate. "Can you fix it?" she asked, looking up at him. "Yes," he said, "but not quickly. I'll need to rebuild the security keys, layer by layer. It's going to take most of the night." Simone looked at the clock on her wall. 1:17 p.m. "Then you'd better start," she said. Caleb pulled his laptop from his bag and set up at the far end of Simone's desk. The titanium drive on its lanyard clunked softly against the glass surface as he settled in. "I had plans tonight," he said quietly, more to himself than to her. Simone was already gathering papers from the surfaces around her office, backup materials, anything she could use to begin reconstructing her presentation from scratch. She looked up. "Plans A," Caleb considered. The truthful answer was that he'd planned to video call Lily before she went to sleep. Maybe hear about her day, maybe read her a chapter of the ocean book she'd been working through. But something about saying that out loud felt like too much right now. "Something like that," he said. Simone studied him. Something moved across her face, not quite amusement, not quite sympathy. Something quieter. "Did you call and cancel?" "Not yet." "Are you going to?" Caleb's fingers were already on the keyboard, the first layer of encryption code unfolding across his screen. His phone sat in his pocket, silent. He thought about Lily's disappointed face if he missed their call. Thought about the CEO sitting across from him whose entire career might depend on the next few hours. Thought about the kind of man who'd choose to steal rather than compete fairly. "Yeah," he said. "I'm going to cancel." Simone reached into a desk drawer, pulled out her phone and tapped the screen a few times. Then she set it down. "I just texted the owner of the Italian place in the lobby. He owes me one. Food will be here in 30 minutes. A pause. "Consider it payment for the cancellation." Caleb looked at her then, really looked for the first time without the filter of the crisis. Not the CEO. Not the powerful executive whose office could swallow his entire apartment. Just a woman who'd stayed late preparing for something that mattered enormously to her, only to have someone she'd trusted try to take it apart from the inside. "Can I ask you something?" Simone said, settling into the chair across from him. "You can ask. This date you're canceling, is she prettier than I am?" It was a strange question, testing, searching, but with something real underneath it. Caleb suspected it had been a long time since Simone Voss had asked anyone anything without already knowing the answer. He didn't smile, didn't sidestep. He looked directly at her. "Your computer is being hacked," he said. "Everything else can wait." Simone held his gaze for a long moment. Then something shifted in her expression, respect, maybe, or something that looked like recognition. She nodded once. "Then let's catch whoever did this." The office found its own rhythm after that. Caleb worked at his laptop, methodically dismantling and rebuilding the encryption framework layer by layer. Simone sat on the leather couch near the windows with her tablet and a legal pad, reconstructing her presentation from memory and whatever backup fragments she could locate. The Atlanta skyline spread beyond the glass. Peachtree Street lit up below the stadium lights, faint in the distance, the soft glow of a city that never fully went dark. The food arrived at 1240 a.m. I.m. Pasta bread. A salad that looked better than anything Caleb had eaten in weeks. They ate in a quiet that had become somehow comfortable. "So whoever used Raymond's credentials, they copied 4.1 gigabytes, Simone asked, picking at her salad. "At minimum. Maybe more before I caught it." "What were they after, specifically? Based on the file, access patterns, everything? Your calendar, your private emails, board meeting, prep personnel files, financial projections?" He looked up. "Everything someone would need to walk into tomorrow's meeting and take you apart." Simone set down her fork. "Ammunition," she said quietly, "for the restructuring." She nodded slowly. "I'm proposing we eliminate his entire operations division. The functions it handles can be absorbed by automation and 2 existing teams. It's been redundant for 18 months. She paused. "It's just that Raymond has been with the company for 9 years. He was there when we had 11 employees and shared 1 conference table. And now I'm about to tell him his department doesn't have a future. So he decided to strike first," Caleb said. "Apparently." The weight of it sat in the room between them. Caleb had seen this pattern before, the particular pain that came from being undermined by someone you'd built something with. It was never just professional damage. It was personal in a way only betrayal could be. "Can I ask you something?" Simone said after a moment. "Why did you come up here yourself? You could have shut down the intrusion remotely, sent me a report, documented the incident, kept your distance entirely." Caleb considered the question carefully. It was a fair one. The professionally safe play would have been exactly that. "I have a daughter," he said finally. "Lily. She's 8. Simone waited, sensing there was more. "Her mother, my wife, died 3 years ago. Cancer. Fast. One day we were planning Lily's 5th birthday, and 6 months later I was a single father trying to figure out how to braid hair and explain why mommy wasn't coming home." He paused. He never talked about Mara. Not with clients, not with colleagues, not with anyone except Lily and Denise. Her name was Mara. She was an employment attorney, spent her entire career defending people who'd been wronged by employers who thought they were untouchable. "I'm sorry," Simone said quietly. "My point is, she taught me something, that the right thing and the safe thing aren't always the same. Sometimes you have to stand up when you see something wrong, even when it's easier not to." He met Simone's eyes. "Someone was stealing from you, trying to destroy months of your work. I couldn't just send an email about that." Simone was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight it hadn't before. "Mara sounds like she was extraordinary." She was. "Lily got the best parts of her. Lily's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one. She's the only reason I keep going some days." They fell quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Something had settled between them. Less awkward. More like the ease that came from 2 people who'd stopped performing for each other and could simply exist in the same room. Caleb worked through the first major encryption layer by 250 a.m. He glanced up and found that Simone had fallen asleep on the leather couch, her tablet still balanced on her knees, her head tilted at an angle that was going to cause real neck pain when she woke up. He stood quietly, lifted the tablet and set it on the coffee table, and pulled the folded throw blanket from the back of the couch over her shoulders. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. He returned to his screen. At Firatio, A.M. His phone buzzed. A text from Denise. She woke up asking for you, had a nightmare, got her back to sleep but wanted you to know. Caleb stared at the message. The guilt was physical, a weight settling across his chest and staying there. He should be there. He should be the one sitting on the edge of Lily's bed telling her the bad dream was gone. Instead, he was on the 35th floor of a glass tower in Atlanta helping a CEO he barely knew. He started typing a response, then heard movement behind him. Simone was awake, rubbing her neck with a grimace. What time is it? Just past 4. How's it going? Through the first layer. 2 more to go. She stood folding the blanket, noticing it for the first time. Her eyes moved from the blanket to Caleb with an expression that wasn't quite surprise and wasn't quite something else. Thank you, she said. You looked uncomfortable. She moved to her desk and pulled a bottle of scotch from the bottom drawer, along with 2 glasses. I don't usually drink while I work, she said, pouring 2 fingers each, but I think tonight qualifies as unusual circumstances. She handed one to Caleb. Unusual circumstances, he agreed. To people who show up when it matters, Simone said, raising her glass. They drank. The scotch was smooth and warm, nothing like the cheap whiskey Caleb kept in the back of his kitchen cabinet. Can I ask you something now, he said. Fair enough. That question earlier. Whether my date was prettier than you. What was that actually about? Simone smiled, a real one, slow reaching her eyes. Honestly, I don't know. It's been a long time since someone said something to me that wasn't calculated. She turned her glass slowly in her fingers. Everyone in my world wants something. A promotion, a contract, access, leverage. You showed up at my door at midnight to tell me my system was under attack, and the first thing out of your mouth was that you had somewhere else to be. She paused. It was refreshing. I still canceled to help you, but you didn't want to. That's the difference. You made a choice. Caleb thought about that. For what it's worth, he said, she's 8 years old, obsessed with marine biology, and she thinks I'm the smartest person alive. He paused. So, yeah, she's definitely prettier than you. Simone laughed, a real laugh, nothing like the polished warmth of conference rooms. Your daughter, my daughter. That's exactly the answer I deserved for asking such a ridiculous question. They worked through the rest of the night. Caleb on the encryption, Simone on her presentation. Occasionally, one would ask a question, and the conversation would pull them both away from their screens for a few minutes before they settled back in. Caleb learned that Simone had started the company 11 years ago with 4 employees and a lease on a single room in Buckhead. That she'd spent 7 years fighting for credibility in an industry that treated her like an interesting novelty. That she'd been married once briefly to a man who wanted a partner who would fit into his life rather than build her own. Simone learned that Caleb had been in cybersecurity since he was 20, had first hacked his high school's attendance system to fix a coding glitch that had cost his best friend a scholarship, that he'd met Mara in college, that he'd walked away from a high-paying corporate security position after she died because the pretense of caring about profit margins had become genuinely unbearable. By 6:45 a.m., the second encryption layer was rebuilt, and Caleb was deep in the third. The Atlanta sunrise came in sideways through the east-facing windows, painting the city in shades of copper and rose. Simone stood by the glass watching the light move. Is it going to hold? She asked. The encryption, yes. I'll be done within the hour. I meant the board meeting. Caleb saved his progress and stretched. You've got a solid proposal. The numbers support it. The market analysis backs it up. And if Raymond makes his move, if he tries to use whatever he copied, he's about to find out there's nothing left to use. What do you mean? Caleb pulled up a secondary file on his screen, something he'd been building throughout the night while the encryption ran its reconstruction cycle. I documented everything. The full intrusion path, the packet transfer logs, the authentication records, the external server address where the stolen data was routed. He looked at her. And when I stopped the transfer, I corrupted the files in transit. Whatever Raymond has on that external server, it's garbage. Fragmented code that won't open in any standard application. He has nothing. He has nothing. Something crossed Simone's face, not triumph. Relief edged with anger, edged with the quiet exhaustion of someone who'd been fighting without knowing how long the fight would last. She crossed the office to where Caleb was beginning to pack his bag. Thank you, she said. For showing up. For staying. She reached into her jacket pocket. This is my personal number. She handed him a card, her handwriting on the back. If you ever need anything, a reference, someone to call at 3 in the morning, use it. Caleb took the card. I'm serious about the 3 a.m. thing, Simone added. I'm apparently always awake. Good luck in there today, he said. I don't need luck, she said. I have evidence. He left her in her corner office, with the morning sun streaming through the glass and the city spreading out below like a promise. He rode back down to the server suite on 33. His contract was officially complete. The security audit was done. Time to pack up and disappear the way he always did. He gathered the photos of Lily he kept taped to his monitor, her school picture from last year and the one Denise had taken at the river last summer. Lily holding a fish with both hands and a look of pure triumph. He tucked them carefully into his bag. His phone buzzed. Denise, she's up. Asking when you're coming. I told her this morning. Don't make me a liar. Caleb typed back. On my way. Tell her to pick breakfast. He took one last look at the humming machines, the cold blue light, the work he'd done in the dark. Then he picked up his bag and headed for the parking garage. The highway north ran gray and wide through the early morning. Atlanta's skyline shrank in his rearview mirror, the glass towers catching the dawn light and throwing it back in fragments. He'd stopped at a gas station on the outskirts to wash his face and drink the worst coffee $3 had ever bought. His reflection in the cracked mirror showed a man running on no sleep, and something that might have been purpose. 2 hours of driving ahead, and the thought of Lily's face when she saw him was enough to keep him moving. His phone rang at 911 a.m. Unknown number. Atlanta area code. This is Caleb. Mr. Merritt. Male voice. Smooth, brisk professional. My name is Thomas Webb. I'm general counsel for Voss Cipher. Do you have a moment? Caleb's grip tightened on the wheel. Legal counsel, calling directly, was never the start of a comfortable conversation. I'm driving, he said carefully, but I'm listening. I'll be brief. There's been a development at this morning's board meeting. We need you back at Apex Tower immediately. What kind of development? A pause. Background voices in the distance, urgent and overlapping. The kind that requires your testimony and your documentation. How soon can you be here? Caleb looked at the highway signs flashing past. 40 miles north of the city. He thought about Lily at Denise's kitchen table, still in her pajamas, waiting. He thought about Denise saying, "Don't make me a liar." He thought about every broken promise he'd stored up like stones in his chest. Then, he thought about Simone walking into that boardroom. 2 hours, he said. 90 minutes if possible. The line went dead. Caleb pulled off at the next exit. He sat in a gas station parking lot with the engine idling for a full minute before he called Denise. She answered immediately. Please tell me you're almost here. I'm not. He said it fast because slow didn't make it less true. Something came up. I have to go back. Silence. Caleb. I know. Can I talk to her? Shuffling. Then Lily's voice, bright and expectant. Daddy, are you here? Aunt Denise says we can have waffles. He closed his eyes. Hey, Bug. Listen, I have some bad news. I can't come today. Something important happened at work, and people need my help. The silence on the other end was worse than crying would have been. But you promised, Lily said finally, very quietly. I know I did. And I'm so sorry. I promise I'll make it right this weekend. Just you and me. We'll do the aquarium and anything else you want. You always say that. The 4 words hit him straight in the chest because they were completely inarguably true. Lily, I have to go, she said. And the line went dead. Caleb sat in the parking lot for 5 more minutes staring at his phone. Then he turned the car around and drove south. He made it back in 80 minutes. Apex Tower looked different in full daylight. The glass facade reflecting a clear Georgia morning, the building gleaming like it had nothing to hide. Caleb parked and took the elevator to the executive floor, his canvas bag over his shoulder, his body running entirely on adrenaline and the terrible clarity that came from no sleep. Thomas Webb met him at the elevator. Thin man, late 50s, silver-rimmed glasses, the kind of suit that said, I've spent 30 years being the most careful person in any room. Mr. Merritt, thank you for coming back. His expression left no room for small talk. The board meeting started at 9. Ms. Voss presented her restructuring proposal. Raymond Tate attempted to use what he claims are confidential documents to undermine it. Things deteriorated from there. How bad, they walked quickly. Raised voices were audible through the closed conference room doors. Tate is claiming the documents prove Miss Voss has engaged in preferential hiring and biased financial practices. Miss Voss is claiming Tate obtained the documents illegally. The board is demanding proof from both sides. Webb stopped outside the doors. "You're the proof, Mr. Merritt." Caleb set down his bag and pulled out his laptop. The conference room doors opened, and Simone stepped out. She looked different than she had 3 hours ago. Fresh suit, perfect posture, composure restored like armor reapplied. But Caleb could see the tension in her shoulders, the careful control around her eyes. "You came back," she said. "You needed me to." For a moment, something passed between them, the recognition of what his return had cost, and the strange bond that had formed across one long, crisis-filled night. "I have everything," Caleb said. "Every log, every timestamp, every piece of documentation." Simone nodded once. "Then let's finish this." The boardroom was exactly what Caleb expected. A long table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows with a panoramic view of Midtown Atlanta spread out in the morning sun. Original art. The particular silence of a room full of expensive people holding expensive opinions. 11 board members sat around the table, and at the far end, Raymond Tate. Caleb recognized him easily. Late 40s, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than Caleb's car, silver hair perfectly shaped his expression, composed in a way that looked like something he'd practiced. Beside him sat a younger man, mid-30s, sharp eyes, the focused look of someone whose entire professional skill set was finding the edges of rules. "Members of the board," Simone said calmly. "This is Caleb Merritt. He's the cybersecurity contractor who has been conducting our security audit for the past 4 weeks. Last night, Mr. Merritt discovered an active intrusion into my personal network drive and documented every element of what occurred." A woman at the head of the table, 60 iron gray hair, the kind of poise that took decades to build, gestured to an empty chair. "Mr. Merritt, I'm Karen Park, board chairwoman. Please tell us exactly what you found." Caleb set up his laptop, connected it to the presentation system, and pulled up the files he'd compiled through the night. At approximately 1:34 p.m. last night, he began, "I detected unusual network activity originating from inside this building. Someone was running a packet-sniffing operation targeting Miss Voss's private network drive." Tate leaned forward. "Mrs. Park, I object. Mr. Merritt is Miss Voss's contractor. His testimony is inherently biased." "I'm an independent contractor," Caleb said without looking at him. "I was engaged by Voss Cipher to audit the company's security vulnerabilities. I have no personal relationship with Miss Voss beyond professional contact." Tate's attorney cleared his throat. "The timing is suspicious regardless. Miss Voss moves to eliminate Mr. Tate's department, and suddenly, there's a convenient hacking incident." Caleb clicked to his first set of logs. "These are network authentication records from last night, time-stamped and verified against 3 independent systems. At 1:17 p.m., someone logged into Raymond Tate's office terminal using his credentials. They initiated a packet-sniffing program and spent the next 19 minutes copying files from Miss Voss's private drive." He moved to the next screen. 4.1 gigabytes of data. Personnel records, financial projections, strategic planning documents, and Miss Voss's preparation materials for this exact meeting. Karen Park studied the screen. "Mr. Tate, where were you at 1117 last night?" "My hotel room in Charlotte," Tate said smoothly. "I flew out yesterday morning. I have receipts, phone records, witnesses, everything you need." "Then someone accessed your computer without authorization," another board member said. Or Tate's attorney interjected, "Mr. Merritt fabricated these logs." "That's well within his technical capability, isn't it?" Caleb had been expecting this. "These logs aren't only from our internal systems," he said, pulling up another window. "I cross-referenced them against external traffic records from Voss Cipher's internet service provider. Their independent documentation confirms the data transfer at these exact times. I had no access to their systems, which means I couldn't have fabricated this." He moved to a new screen. Furthermore, the authentication signature contains hardware identifiers unique to Mr. Tate's specific terminal. MAC address, installed software profile. Someone was physically sitting at his machine when this happened. Something moved behind Tate's eyes. Uncertainty. The first flicker of a man who realized the ground he'd been standing on was thinner than he'd calculated. "My office wasn't locked," Tate said carefully. "Anyone could have walked in. and entered your password correctly on the first attempt, Caleb said. No failed tries, no hesitation. Whoever accessed your terminal knew your credentials exactly. Karen held up a hand. Mr. Merritt, assuming this breach occurred as you've described, what was the objective? Caleb pulled up the file access list. Based on what was targeted, the objective was to collect ammunition to discredit Miss Voss before this board meeting. Personnel files that could imply favoritism, financial data that could be taken out of context, strategic documents that could make her proposal look compromised. He looked directly at Tate, which is exactly what you attempted this morning, isn't it? You presented allegedly confidential documents and claimed they proved Miss Voss's proposal was biased and unprofessional. Tate met his gaze without flinching. I received those documents from a concerned employee, an anonymous whistleblower with legitimate grievances. Can you produce this employee? Karen asked. They requested anonymity. I'm protecting a source. Simone spoke for the first time. May I see those documents? Tate's attorney slid a tablet across the table. Simone picked it up. She scrolled through slowly, and then, to the visible confusion of everyone watching, she laughed. Not a polished boardroom chuckle. An actual laugh, low and real, with something that sounded like relief underneath it. These files are corrupted, she said, turning the tablet so the board could see. They're fragments, broken metadata, partial code strings. Nothing here is readable or usable. Tate's expression cracked. That's impossible. I reviewed those files this morning. They were. He stopped. The room went absolutely silent. Karen Park leaned forward. You stated you reviewed these files this morning, but you also claimed they were provided to you by a whistleblower. Which is it? Tate's attorney put a hand on his arm. Tate shook him off. I misspoke. My source showed me the files. We reviewed them together, and this source had access to Miss Voss's private drive, Karen said carefully. Without authorization, Tate said nothing. Caleb clicked to his final slide. One more thing the board should know. When I shut down the data transfer last night to stop the breach, the files in transit were corrupted. Anything copied to that external server is now useless, fragmented code that won't open in any standard application. He let that settle, which means the only way Mr. Tate could have reviewed readable copies of Miss Voss's confidential files is if he had access to them before the corruption occurred, before I stopped the transfer, which places him in direct control of the intrusion itself. The silence in the room was complete. Tate stood slowly. This is a setup. Miss Voss orchestrated this entire scenario to destroy me before I could expose her. Expose me for what exactly? Simone asked, her voice dangerously composed. For consolidating power. For eliminating everyone who questions her decisions. For using this restructuring to remove oversight. I'm eliminating a redundant division to improve the company's long-term position, Simone said. Your team's functions can be handled by existing departments and automation. It's not personal, Raymond. She paused. But what you did, stealing confidential data, attempting to sabotage a board presentation, compromising our security infrastructure, that's not business. That's criminal. Karen Park stood. Mr. Tate, I'm going to ask you directly. Did you personally or through an intermediary access Miss Voss's private files without authorization? Tate looked around the table. Every face held some version of the same expression. Disappointment, anger, a door closing. His attorney leaned in and whispered something. I decline to answer on grounds that it may incriminate me, Tate said. Karen nodded once. Then, I have no choice. You are suspended from all duties effective immediately pending a full investigation. You will surrender your credentials, your access cards, and any company property in your possession. Security will escort you from the building. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway, as if they'd been waiting for exactly this moment. As Tate passed Caleb's chair, he stopped. You have no idea what you've done, he said quietly. I stopped a theft, Caleb said. That's all. Tate leaned in closer. I have connections in this industry, real ones. You'll regret this, Mr. Merritt. Caleb met his gaze steadily. I've faced worse than you. Have a good afternoon. The security guards led Tate from the room. The door closed behind them with a soft click that was somehow louder than anything that had come before it. Karen turned to Simone. Miss Voss, I apologize on behalf of this board for what you've been subjected to. No executive should have to defend themselves against sabotage from their own leadership team. She paused. That said, we still need to review your restructuring proposal on its merits. Are you prepared to present the full plan? Simone straightened. I am. Then let's proceed. If you're still here, you already know this story isn't finished. Hit that like button and keep watching, because what comes next is bigger than anyone in that room could have predicted. The board voted at 11:43 a.m. 10 in favor, 1 abstaining. The restructuring proposal was approved. Afterward, when the room had emptied, only Caleb and Simone remained. She sank into a chair. That, she said, was the longest 3 hours of my life. You were solid in there. I was prepared. Because of you. She looked at him directly. I heard you drove back from halfway to Chattanooga. You needed me. Will Lily forgive you? The question landed harder than expected. He thought about her voice on the phone, small, careful, containing something much larger. You always say that. Eventually, he said, I'm not sure I'll forgive myself. You can't be everything to everyone, Simone said quietly. You have to make hard choices. Doesn't mean they stop costing something. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. What you did last night and this morning that went far beyond any contract obligation. You could have reported the breach remotely and kept your distance entirely. Why didn't you, Caleb? Thought about the answer carefully. Mara used to say that the measure of a person isn't what they do when someone's watching. It's what they do when no one would ever know. He met Simone's eyes. I had a choice, the safe one or the right one. And you always choose right. I try to. It doesn't always go clean. Simone moved to her desk, wrote something on company letterhead and sealed it in an envelope. She handed it to Caleb. Non-negotiable, she said, for last night. He looked at the envelope. It's too much. It's not nearly enough. You saved this company from a very ugly war. She paused. And you reminded me what it feels like to trust someone. That's worth more than I can put in a check. She held out her hand. Caleb shook it. For a moment, they stood there in the doorway of her corner office, two people who'd spent one long night fighting a battle that had tested both of them differently. Then Caleb stepped into the hallway and headed for the elevator. He was halfway across the parking garage when his phone rang. Denise. She's okay, Denise said before he could speak. She was upset for a while, but we went to the park and she made friends with someone's golden retriever. She's already talking about what you two are going to do this weekend. The relief moved through him like something physical. Can I talk to her? She's asleep right now, but I'll have her call you when she wakes up. Denise, thank you for everything. Don't break the promise this weekend, Caleb. She can handle one disappointment. 2 in a row is a different thing entirely. This weekend is just for her. I swear it. He climbed into his car. Through the windshield, Apex Tower rose against the Atlanta afternoon sky, 38 floors of glass and ambition. Somewhere up there, Simone was signing documents and preparing for the next crisis. Somewhere north in Chattanooga, his daughter was sleeping. Caleb started the engine and pulled out of the garage, heading north. This time, nothing was going to stop him. The drive to Chattanooga ran through rolling green hills that turned gold in the late afternoon light. Denise's house was a modest 2-story in a quiet neighborhood. Kids on bicycles, people who waved to their neighbors. Caleb sat in the car after he parked, gathering himself. The envelope from Simone sat in his glove compartment. He'd deal with that later. Right now, all that mattered was the little girl inside. Denise answered before he could knock. She was Mara's younger sister, 32, to Mara's would have been 38, with the same dark hair and the same way of seeing straight through whatever you were pretending. Looking at her always hurt a little, like a photograph worn soft at the edges. Backyard, she said quietly. Fair warning, she's still processing. Caleb walked through the house, past Lily's scattered stuffed animals in the living room, past the refrigerator covered in crayon drawings, out the back door. Lily sat on the wooden swing set, dragging her feet in the dirt, not really swinging. She wore her purple jacket and the light-up sneakers Caleb had bought her for her birthday. Her dark hair was in a ponytail, Denise's work. Caleb still hadn't mastered making them even. Hey, Bug, he said softly. Lily kicked the dirt with the toe of her sneaker. You said you were coming this morning. I know. I'm really sorry I couldn't. Aunt Denise said you had to work. I did. Something unexpected happened, and people needed help. More important than me, the question landed exactly where she'd aimed it. Caleb crouched in the dirt beside the swing, putting himself at her eye level the way Mara always had. "Nothing is more important than you," he said. "Nothing in the whole world. But sometimes I have to help other people too, even when it means I let you down. And I hate that. Every single time." Lily looked at him for a long moment, her eyes, Mara's eyes, searching his face for something. "Mommy used to help people too," she said quietly. "She'd stay late sometimes, but she always came home for bedtime stories." Caleb's throat tightened. Lily rarely talked about Mara directly anymore. The memories had gone softer, less immediate. And somehow that hurt differently than the sharp grief of those first months. "She was really good at balancing everything," Caleb said. "Better than me. I miss her." "Me too, Bug. Every single day." Lily slipped off the swing and into his arms, both of them full and tight, her face buried against his collar. He held her and felt her small body shake with quiet tears she'd been holding since that morning. They stayed like that for a long time, father and daughter in a backyard in Chattanooga, while the sun went orange and low. Finally, Lily pulled back and wiped her face on her sleeve. "Are we still going to the aquarium this weekend?" she asked. "Saturday morning. First thing. Just you and me. No work, no emergencies, no excuses. The whole weekend is yours." Lily studied his face, running her own private calculation. "Okay," she said finally, "but if you break this one, I'm going to be really, really, really mad." "Understood completely." "Deal." After dinner pasta, Lily ate most of the bread. She showed Caleb the fort she'd built in the guest bedroom. He crawled inside the blanket and chair structure and listened to her explain the elaborate rules she'd invented for the invisible creatures that lived in it. Then they watched a movie about talking penguins. Lily curled against his side, her breathing gradually slowing as sleep crept up on her. By 9, she was out her favorite stuffed dolphin under one arm. Caleb stood in the doorway and memorized the expression on her face. Later, Denise brought 2 glasses of wine to the front porch. "Tell me," she said. He told her everything. The anomaly he'd caught. The all-night rebuild. The board confrontation. Tate's suspension. Denise listened without interrupting her wine glass, turning slowly in her hands. "You made an enemy today," she said, when he finished. "Tate sounds like someone with the patience to act on grudges." "Maybe. But what was I supposed to do? Look away? Most people would have." "You didn't have to fix her computer, Caleb. You didn't have to go back for the board meeting. You chose to stay in it. Mara would have done the same thing." Denise smiled sadly. "Yeah, she would have. My sister never could walk past someone who needed help, even when it cost her." A pause. "But Caleb, you're not Mara. You don't have to be the hero every time, especially with Lily depending on you." "I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying to fill the space she left by being everything to everyone. And that's not sustainable." Caleb stared out at the dark street. "She offered me a job," he said. "Full-time director of cybersecurity. Real money, real stability. Are you going to take it? I don't know. Part of me wants to. It would mean Lily and I stop wondering about next month's rent. But it would also mean less flexibility, longer hours, more nights that look like tonight." Denise set down her glass. "Can I give you advice you didn't ask for?" "Sure. Stop making every decision based on what Mara would have wanted. She's gone. I love my sister more than anything in this world, but she can't help you raise Lily, or navigate your career, or figure out any of this. You have to start choosing based on what you actually want. What's best for you and Lily right now." The words stung because they were true. For 3 years, Caleb had been trying to become the person Mara had already been. He couldn't. He never would be. "I'll think about it," he said. They finished their wine in the comfortable silence of people who'd learned to say hard things without making them harder than necessary. Then Denise showed him to the guest room, and Caleb stretched out on the floor beside Lily's bed, with a spare blanket the way he used to when she was smaller and nightmares came more often. His phone buzzed softly, a text from Simone. "Hope you made it safely. Thank you again for everything." He typed back, "Made it. Thanks." A pause. Then, "The investigation into Tate starts Monday. Legal will need your testimony again. Is that okay?" "That's fine." Another pause. "The job offer is still open. No pressure." "But I meant what I said." Caleb stared at the message for a long time. Through the window, he could see stars beginning to show in the clear night sky. Lily stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about dolphins. "I'll let you know soon," he typed, still thinking. "Take your time. Good night, Caleb. Good night. He set the phone aside. Sleep came fitfully, his mind working through possibilities, but sometime before 4 in the morning it let him go. Saturday arrived with gold light, and Lily bouncing beside him at 7 fully dressed, announcing that the aquarium opened at 9, and could they please leave now. They drove into Chattanooga, stopped at Lily's favorite diner for pancakes and hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, then spent 4 hours at the Tennessee Aquarium. Lily's nose against every tank, stingrays gliding past like living shadows, jellyfish pulsing through the blue water like something from another world. "Daddy, look." She grabbed his hand and pulled him toward a large central tank. Jellyfish. The tank was lit from within dozens of translucent creatures drifting in slow, pulsing circles, their trailing arms catching the light. "They don't have brains," Lily said reverently. "No brains, just a nerve net. They feel things, but they don't think about them." She pressed her palm to the glass. "I think that sounds kind of peaceful." Caleb smiled. "You're a strange and wonderful person, you know, that I know." She didn't look away from the jellyfish. Then, quietly, "Mommy would have liked these." His chest tightened. "She would have loved them. Do you think she can see me? Like from wherever she is?" He thought about it honestly, the way Lily always deserved. "I think wherever your mom is, she knows how much we love her. And I think she's proud of you every single day." Lily seemed satisfied with this. She pressed her forehead gently against the glass, and a jellyfish drifted close, its translucent body pulsing with something that looked almost like breath. They stayed until closing. That evening, after Lily was asleep in their apartment, Caleb opened the envelope from Simone. The check made him sit back in his chair. More than he'd made in the past 2.5 months combined. Enough to cover rent for 5 months. Enough to start Lily's college fund in a way that wouldn't feel like pretending. There was a handwritten note attached. "Caleb, you earned every dollar of this, and then some. The job offer stands as long as you want it. Whatever you decide, I hope we stay in touch. You reminded me there are still people in this world worth trusting. That's rarer than it should be. S." Her personal number at the bottom. Caleb sat with the note in his hands for a long time. Stop making decisions based on what Mara would have wanted. Start choosing based on what's actually best for you and Lily right now. His phone rang. Thomas Webb. "Mr. Merritt, I apologize for calling on a Saturday evening. The investigation into Raymond Tate has uncovered something concerning. He appears to have been in contact with multiple competitors, possibly selling proprietary information over an extended period. The scope is expanding significantly, and Miss Voss has specifically requested your technical expertise for the coming week." "I'll need to think about it," Caleb said. "Of course. But if what we suspect is confirmed, this is a federal matter. Theft of trade secrets. Your analysis would be crucial to building the case." After Webb hung up, Caleb stood at his apartment window, looking out at Atlanta glittering below. He thought about the quiet of Apex Tower at 4 in the morning, about Simone standing at the windows watching the sunrise, about the strange connection that had formed between two people during one crisis-filled night. He walked to Lily's room and stood in the doorway. She was sprawled across the bed the way children slept, completely boneless, trusting. The stuffed dolphin was tucked under her arm. That trust was the most precious and most terrifying thing Caleb had ever been given. His phone buzzed. A text from Simone Webb said, "He called you. I know it's a lot to ask. No pressure, but I could really use your help." Caleb thought about everything he'd built in the past 48 hours. About the all-night encryption rebuild. About standing in that boardroom. About the way Simone had handed him her card and said he'd reminded her that some people were worth trusting. He typed back, "I'll be there Monday, but after this I need to make some decisions about what comes next." Her response came immediately, "Fair enough. Thank you, Caleb. I owe you." "You don't owe me anything. See you Monday." He set the phone down and returned to Lily's room, tucked her blanket back over her. She murmured something in her sleep, a fragment of a dream he'd never know. "I'm doing my best, Bug," he whispered. "I hope that's enough." The next 3 weeks moved at the speed of controlled chaos. Caleb assembled a security task force from scratch, a network specialist from Seattle who'd built his reputation, proving that supposedly impenetrable systems weren't, and a former federal analyst who'd grown tired of government work and wanted to use her skills, protecting people who actually needed it. 2 recent MIT graduates who could code faster than most people thought. Together they began the massive undertaking of auditing every system Tate had touched. And Caleb kept his promise to Lily. Every school pickup, every parent-teacher conference, every evening that mattered, he was there. He set boundaries with his team and held them absolutely no work calls during dinner, no emails after 8 unless the building was literally on fire. His office went dark every day at 5:15. Simone noticed. She mentioned it one morning almost casually as she passed his doorway. "I walked past your office at 7 last night," she said. "Your team was still there. You weren't. That's how it's supposed to work," Caleb said. "I don't need to be in the room for everything to function. That's the point of building people you actually trust." She looked at him like he'd said something interesting. "I'm going to have to remember that." The FBI investigation moved fast with Tate's exposure. Federal prosecutors filed formal charges, 17 counts, including theft of trade secrets, corporate espionage, and conspiracy. Tate's attorneys tried to negotiate. The evidence was too solid. He was looking at serious prison time. But while Caleb worked on Tate, his new monitoring system, built on the gaps he'd found during the security audit, flagged something no one had been looking for. An internal collaborator, someone inside Voss Cipher, had been actively helping Tate. Not just providing information, creating administrative backdoors, bypassing security controls, deleting the logs that would have caught him months earlier. Caleb compiled the evidence quietly and sent it to Simone at 11 at night. Her response came in 6 minutes. "Come in at 8 tomorrow. Tell no one." The next morning, Caleb laid the evidence out on Simone's conference room screen. Nadia Cheng, Senior Network Administrator, 6 years with the company. Employee number 14. Simone stood very still for a long time, looking at the screen. "She's been with us since nearly the beginning," she said. Her voice was steady, but Caleb could hear what it was costing her. "I hired her myself." "The access pattern is too consistent to be coincidence," Caleb said. "She created backdoors that gave Tate elevated access across multiple systems. The timing correlates exactly with his unauthorized file retrievals." Simone moved to the window. "When my ex-husband left," she said quietly, "the worst part wasn't the divorce itself. It was finding out he'd been lying for months beforehand. All those conversations I thought were honest." She turned. "This feels like that. Different stakes, same betrayal. We don't know her full situation yet," Caleb said carefully. "There could be pressure we haven't seen. Can you monitor her systems without her knowing?" "Already done. If she tries to delete anything, we'll know immediately." At 11:45 that morning, the monitoring system pinged. Nadia Cheng had just accessed one of the backdoor administrative channels and was attempting to delete 6 months of security logs. Caleb called Simone. "She's destroying evidence right now. Lock her out." He executed the lockout protocol. 2 floors below, he imagined her staring at her screen in confusion as her commands stopped working. They confronted Nadia in a secure conference room on the executive floor. Caleb, Simone, and Thomas Webb, 2 security guards in the hallway. Nadia Cheng was younger than Caleb had expected. Early 30s, dark hair and a practical ponytail, glasses that kept sliding down her nose. She looked more comfortable behind a screen than in front of people. She was pale and composed in the way that people were when they'd been waiting for something, and it had finally arrived. "Miss Cheng," Simone began, her voice calm and cold. "You've been with this company for 6 years. I've trusted you with our most sensitive systems. So I'm going to ask you directly, have you been helping Raymond Tate access my files without authorization?" "I'm not saying anything without my attorney present." "That's your right," Webb said. "But I should inform you that the FBI is already involved in this investigation. This is your opportunity to cooperate before federal charges are filed." Caleb slid the tablet across the table, the access logs, the deletion attempts, all of it time-stamped. Nadia stared at the screen. Something crumbled behind her eyes. "He said no one would ever catch it," she said quietly. "He said the monitoring systems weren't sophisticated enough to track back doors at the administrative level." "He was wrong," Caleb said. Nadia put her head in her hands. "I didn't want to do this. I swear I didn't. But Raymond knew something about me, a relationship I'd had with a junior employee a few years back. Nothing illegal, but it violated company policy. He said if I didn't help him, he'd report it to HR and my career here would be over." She looked up, and by the time I realized how deep I was in, I didn't know how to get out. Simone's voice was very quiet. "Why didn't you come to me?" Nadia looked away. "I was scared and ashamed, And every time I thought about telling you, I thought about what it would cost me. Webb leaned forward. If you cooperate fully with the FBI and provide complete testimony against Tate, we can work toward a reduced outcome. But you need to give us everything right now. Nadia looked around the table at the three faces watching her. Simone's controlled pain, Webb's professional detachment, Caleb's quiet, steady attention. Okay, she said finally. I'll tell you everything. For the next 2 hours, Nadia Cheng described in precise detail exactly what Raymond Tate had taken, what he'd sold, and who he'd sold it to. The scope was far worse than any of them had prepared for. Not just domestic competitors, foreign entities with intentions that made Thomas Webb stop writing and start making quiet calls under the table. The journalist Simone had mentioned once a woman in Singapore using Voss Cipher's encryption to communicate with sources covering government corruption. Tate had sold a backdoor key that could potentially unravel her protection entirely. A medical research team in Kenya studying drug-resistant tuberculosis, their patient data security had been undermined by algorithms Tate had traded for cash. Every revelation made Simone's expression harder, more controlled, like she was building something inside herself to hold the weight of it. When Nadia finally finished, Webb closed his notepad. You'll give a formal statement to federal agents. Your credentials are revoked effective immediately. Do not discuss this investigation with anyone outside this room. Nadia nodded. Tears moved down her face in silence. I'm sorry, she whispered, looking at Simone. I know that doesn't change anything. Simone stood and walked out without responding. Caleb followed and found her in her office, standing at the windows, arms crossed. How many people are at risk? She asked, without turning around. I don't know the full scope yet, but we'll identify every compromised system, every client who might be vulnerable, and we'll fix it. Some things can't be fixed, Caleb. No, but they can be made more secure going forward. And you can be honest with the people who trusted you. He moved to stand beside her. What happened is on Tate and Nadia, not on you. I'm the CEO. Everything that happens here ultimately comes back to me. Then use it. Build something that makes this impossible to happen again. He waited until she looked at him. That's what the task force is for. Not just catching the problem after the fact, preventing it permanently. Simone turned from the window. Something shifted in her expression, the same core of steel he'd seen in the boardroom, the same quality that had built a company from nothing. Here's what we're going to do, she said. You're going to build a complete audit of every system Tate and Nadia touched. Every compromised algorithm, every backdoor, every potential vulnerability. Then you're going to design new protocols that close those gaps permanently. That's a significant undertaking. I know. That's why I'm authorizing you to expand your team immediately. Hire whoever you need. Spend whatever it takes. What about clients who might already be compromised? We contact them directly. Full disclosure. We explain what happened, what the risks are, and what we're doing to fix it. Then we offer enhanced security at no additional cost until we're certain they're protected. Some of them would leave, Caleb thought. He didn't say it. Simone said it for him. Some of them will leave. Let them. I'd rather lose clients honestly than keep them through deception. This company was built on trust. If we lose that, we lose everything. The next month was the most intensive work of Caleb's professional life. He kept his promise to Lily. Every single school pickup, every parent-teacher conference, every evening that mattered. He set boundaries with his team and held them absolutely no work calls during dinner, no emails after 8, unless the building was literally on fire. His alarm went off every afternoon at 5:02 p.m. He never ignored it. The FBI filed formal charges against Raymond Tate's 17 counts. Tate's attorneys tried to negotiate and found nothing left to negotiate with. He pleaded guilty to all counts and was facing significant prison time. Nadia Cheng received probation and community service in exchange for her full cooperation. Caleb saw her once in the lobby on her last day at the company. She looked smaller, somehow diminished by the weight of her choices. He didn't stop to talk. Some things didn't need commentary. On a Thursday afternoon in November, Caleb's comprehensive audit completed. He compiled the results and called the executive meeting. The conference room was full. Simone at the head of the table, Webb and Donna Reeves, the chief information officer, flanking her. The full executive team filling every remaining seat. Caleb connected his laptop. Over the past 4 weeks, my team has audited every system Tate and Cheng touched. We've identified every vulnerability, assessed the damage, and built a complete remediation plan. He clicked to the network diagram. The good news is most of the damage is containable. The compromised algorithms are from our second-generation software. Clients on our current platform are unaffected. How many clients are exposed? Simone asked. 52, using the affected protocols. We've contacted all of them. 37 have accepted free upgrades to our current security architecture. The remaining 15 are evaluating their options. He moved through several more technical slides, then stopped. Here's what actually matters. The reason this could happen at all is because our security model was built on trust. We assumed people with high-level access would use it responsibly. We didn't have adequate monitoring, verification, or redundancy. He looked around the table. That's not a technical failure. It's a structural one. Donna Reeves leaned forward. We had multiple authentication layers. You had security that looked thorough on paper, Caleb said without apology. Nadia Cheng created administrative backdoors that went undetected for months. That should never be possible in any architecture worth the name. Silence. Caleb pulled up his final slide, the new zero-trust security architecture. No one gets access they don't specifically need for their exact role. Every action is logged, monitored, and independently verified. AI-driven anomaly detection flags unusual behavior before it becomes a breach. And we build redundant verification into every critical system so that no single person can bypass security alone. Cost, someone from finance asked? Initial implementation, 11 million. Annual maintenance, 2.4 million. He let that number settle. Compare that to the alternative. Tate's actions have already cost us 4 major clients, approximately 16 million in lost annual revenue. We're exposed to potential lawsuits from clients whose data was compromised. And the reputational damage doesn't have a number yet. Simone didn't hesitate. Approved. All of it. When do we start? We already have. Core systems go live Monday. Full rollout takes 6 months. 2 weeks later, Caleb stood at the head of the board table. 11 faces. Karen Park at the far end. The same board that had watched him present evidence against Tate. He was nervous. The night before, Lily had climbed into bed beside him while he reviewed his notes. "You're doing the worried face," she said. "I have to talk to a lot of important people tomorrow." She thought about it. "My teacher says, when you're scared to present, pick one person in the room and pretend everyone else isn't there. Just talk to your friend." Caleb looked at his daughter. "That's really good advice, Bug." "I know. So who's your person?" He thought about Simone. About the trust that had grown between them across one long crisis and everything that followed. "I think I know," he said. The board meeting. Caleb stood, connected his laptop, looked around the table, and found Simone's eyes. She gave him one slight nod. He talked to her. He told them everything. The half-second anomaly he'd caught on a quiet Tuesday night. The choice to walk upstairs instead of sending an email. The all-night rebuild. The board confrontation where Tate had unwittingly destroyed himself. The discovery of Nadia Cheng. The months of forensic work. The new security architecture. But he didn't just tell them the technical story. He told them about the journalist in Singapore, about the research team in Kenya, about 52 clients whose trust had been violated by people making decisions in a city they'd never visited. Security isn't about protecting data, Caleb said. It's about protecting people. Every algorithm we build, every protocol we deploy, there are real human beings on the other end, trusting us to keep them safe. When that trust is violated, the damage is real. It reaches people who will never know our company's name. Karen Park was quiet for a long moment after the questions ended. "Mr. Merritt," she said finally, "when you were hired as a contractor 5 weeks ago, I doubt anyone expected you'd be standing here. But what you've done for this company, and what you've made us understand about why this company matters has been exemplary." She looked around the table. "I move to approve full implementation of the new security architecture as presented with Mr. Merritt continuing to lead the effort." 10 hands rose. 1 abstention. "Motion carries," Karen said. She extended her hand to Caleb. "You've earned your place here, Mr. Merritt. We're fortunate to have you." Afterward, when the room had cleared, Simone handed him an envelope. "Open it later," she said. "What is it?" "Open it later." At the elevator, Caleb hesitated. "Thank you," he said, "for believing in me, for protecting Lily when Tate threatened legal action." "We protect our own," Simone said. "That's not policy. It's just true. The elevator arrived. She stepped in but held the doors. "Are you coming? I'm going to take the rest of the day," Caleb said. "I promised Lily we'd go see the jellyfish exhibit." Simone smiled, the real one, the one that changed her whole face. "Go. The work will be here Monday." The elevator doors closed. In his office, Caleb opened the envelope. A handwritten note on company letterhead. "Caleb, 11 years ago I started this company because I believed security could protect the people who needed it most. Somewhere along the way, I got lost in market share and quarterly projections. You reminded me why we do this. Not once. Every single day since you walked into my office. The 6-month contract was always a test, a way to see if you were truly the right fit for what this company is supposed to be. You've answered that question completely. I'm offering you a permanent position as Chief Security Officer reporting directly to me. Same flexibility, better benefits, equity in the company. Think about it. Take your time. But know this, you've already changed this place. I hope you'll stay to help build what comes next. S." Caleb read it 3 times. He carefully folded the note and put it in his jacket pocket. Then he drove to Lily's school 45 minutes early and sat in the parking lot watching the clouds move across the Georgia sky. At 2:30, the school doors opened and children poured out like water from a burst dam. Lily spotted his car immediately. She ran across the sidewalk with her backpack bouncing, her face lit up with uncomplicated joy. "Daddy, you're early. I promised jellyfish. Right now. Right now." That evening, over pasta at Lily's favorite restaurant, she studied him with the careful attention she reserved for things that mattered. "You seem different today," she said. "Different how? Less heavy, like you put something down." He considered this. "I think maybe I did. Because of the job, partly. Mostly because I'm learning that I don't have to do everything alone." He paused. "I have people who help me now. Aunt Denise. My team. My boss, Simone." Lily twirled her spaghetti slowly. "Do you like her, Simone?" The question was innocent and direct, the way Lily's best questions always were. He thought about the past 5 weeks, the all-night encryption rebuild, the conversations in the corner office, the way Simone had stood beside him in every difficult moment without being asked, the note still folded in his jacket pocket. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I like her." Lily smiled like she'd confirmed something she'd already decided. "Good," she said. "Mommy would think it's good too." "How do you know what Mommy would think?" "Because she loved you, and she'd want you to be happy." Simple logic delivered with complete confidence. She pointed her fork at him. "Can I meet her?" "If you want to." "I do. But Daddy." The fork still pointed. "Make sure she knows I come first. Always bug. Always." That night, after Lily was in bed, Caleb sat at his kitchen table with his phone and Victoria's with Simone's note, and thought about the future. He pulled out his phone and composed an email. "Simone, thank you for the offer and for everything that came before it. I accept the position of Chief Security Officer with the understanding that my first priority will always be Lily. I look forward to building something that matters. See you Monday, Caleb." He hit send before he could second-guess himself. Her response came in under a minute. "Caleb, welcome to the team. Permanently this time. Lily will always come first. That's not just understood, it's required. Leaders who forget their families make poor decisions everywhere else. Congratulations on making the right choice. S." Caleb smiled at the informal signature, at the understanding implicit in those lines. He checked on Lily one last time. Still sleeping peacefully, covers kicked half-off stuffed dolphin tucked under her arm. He covered her gently and kissed her forehead. "Sweet dreams, Bug," he whispered. And for the first time in 3 years, Caleb Merritt went to sleep feeling like maybe tomorrow wouldn't be quite so heavy to carry. 3 months passed. Winter softened toward early spring. Lily turned 9 with a birthday party at the Fernbank Aquarium that Caleb spent 2 weeks planning. The security systems he'd built for Voss Cipher became industry recognized, drawing attention from major tech publications. And then, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in March, Simone stopped by his office. "Walk with me," she said. They rode the elevator to the roof, a small garden space with benches and planters that Caleb hadn't known existed. The spring sun was warm. Atlanta spread below them in every direction. "I come up here when I need to think," Simone said. They sat on a bench overlooking the city. "I've been thinking about what I said at the holiday party, about things being complicated." "Me too," Caleb said. And I've decided I don't care if it's complicated. Life is complicated, but some things are worth the complication. He turned to look at her. What are you saying? I'm saying I've spent the past 3 months trying to convince myself that what I feel for you is just professional respect. But it isn't, and I think you know that too. She paused. Which is why I've already spoken to the board about restructuring the reporting relationships. If we decide there's something worth exploring here, you'll report to Donna Hall instead of me. Clear separation. You went to the board before talking to me. I wanted to know if it was even possible before saying anything. I didn't want to put you somewhere you couldn't get out of. She looked at him directly. I didn't want to be the reason you lost either way. Caleb stood and moved to the edge of the roof garden, looking out at the city below. Lily is my first priority, he said. That doesn't change. I wouldn't want it to. And I don't know how to do this. I haven't been with anyone since Mara died. I don't even know if I remember how. Simone joined him at the railing. Then we'll figure it out together. No pressure. Just two people who care about each other, trying to see if there's something more. Caleb looked at her, really looked without the filter of the job, or the crisis, or the careful professional distance they'd been maintaining. Not the CEO, just Simone. The woman who'd stayed awake all night watching him rebuild encryption systems, who'd stood beside him in every difficult moment, who'd protected his daughter without being asked. Okay, he said quietly. Let's try. Simone smiled, the real one. Yeah. They stood there on the roof as the city hummed below them, the spring air warm and new, neither of them entirely sure what came next, which it turned out was exactly the right place to start. 2 weeks later, Caleb orchestrated the meeting. Saturday afternoon at the Fern Bank. Casual, low pressure. Lily's territory, on Lily's terms. Simone was nervous, which Caleb found genuinely endearing, this woman who commanded boardrooms and navigated federal investigations, visibly anxious about impressing a 9-year-old. Lily got to the point within 5 minutes of sitting down for lunch. Do you have a favorite ocean animal? She asked. I haven't really thought about it much, honestly, Simone admitted. That's okay. Not everyone has one yet. But if you're going to spend time with my dad, you should probably learn about marine biology. It's kind of our thing. Simone looked at Caleb over Lily's head, something bright in her eyes. Then I'll start learning. They spent the afternoon with Lily as their guide, detailed commentary on every tank, genuine questions answered, with the authority of someone who'd read 4 books on the subject. By the end of the visit, when they said goodbye in the parking lot, Lily hugged Simone without hesitation. You can come back, she said. I have more to teach you. It's a deal, Simone said. And the way she said it, looking at Caleb over Lily's head, made it sound like something larger than aquariums. The months that followed found their rhythm. Caleb and Simone dated carefully with the patience of 2 people who'd both learned not to rush the things that mattered. Dinner once a week when Lily was with Denise. Coffee before early morning meetings. Long conversations about everything and nothing on his small apartment balcony or the rooftop garden above Apex Tower. At work, the professional boundaries held. Any intersection was handled through proper channels. The security task force became the best in the industry. The journalist in Singapore sent a personal thank you when she was upgraded to the new architecture. The research team in Kenya completed their tuberculosis study in full security. 50 of the 52 exposed clients stayed. 2 left. Simone let them go without argument. In December, Raymond Tate was sentenced. Significant prison time. No appeal survived. Nadia Cheng received probation and community service in exchange for her cooperation. Caleb heard she'd found work at a small nonprofit doing IT support. He hoped she was doing better. He didn't know. Some stories didn't resolve cleanly, and he'd made peace with that. On a warm September evening, 9 months since a security alert had flashed red at 11:47 p.m. On a quiet Tuesday night, Caleb and Simone sat on his apartment balcony while Lily slept inside. They'd had dinner together. Simone had learned Lily's favorite pasta. They'd watched the sunset paint the Atlanta sky in copper and amber, and the city was beginning to glow below them as the light faded. I've been thinking about taking some actual time off, Simone said. Real time off. Not working from a hotel somewhere with a view. Where would you go? Somewhere with good marine biology. I've been told there's a lot more to learn. Caleb smiled. Lily would approve of that plan. Simone took his hand. What about you? Would you approve? He thought about the journey that had brought him here, the tiny network anomaly he'd almost missed. The choice to walk upstairs instead of sending an email. The all-night encryption rebuild. The long months of constructing something better from what had been broken. And here on this balcony with his daughter sleeping in the next room, and the woman beside him who understood the weight of doing hard things because they were right. Caleb felt something settle inside him that had been restless for 3 years. Not resolution exactly. Not the end of hard days. Just this. This moment solid and real, belonging entirely to him. "Yeah," he said. "I approve." The servers in Apex Tower hummed with their cold mechanical rhythm. But what they carried now was different. Security protocols protecting journalists in Singapore, researchers in Kenya, activists and ordinary people doing difficult and necessary work in a world that didn't always welcome it. A promise that someone was watching, someone who cared, someone who'd shown up when it mattered and would keep showing up day after day, not because it was safe or easy or strategic, but because that's what good people did when they recognized something wrong happening and chose not to. Look away. The smallest choices changed everything. Caleb had chosen to notice a half-second pause in a data stream. He'd chosen to walk upstairs. He'd chosen to rebuild an encryption system through the night. He'd chosen to come back even when it cost him. He'd chosen to tell the truth when a lie would have been so much easier. And Simone had chosen to trust him, not just with her security systems, but with the company's purpose, with the vulnerability she'd guarded carefully for years, with the understanding that some people showed up not because they'd calculated the return on investment, but because they didn't know how to do otherwise. It wasn't a fairy tale. There would be hard choices ahead, moments when competing responsibilities would collide, evenings when Lily would wait, and Caleb would have to balance everything on a knife's edge and hope he got it right. But he wouldn't face any of it alone anymore. He had a team. He had a purpose. He had a daughter who'd told him to talk to his friend when he was scared, and had been right the way she was right about most things. And sitting here with Simone's hand in his, listening to the quiet sounds of his daughter sleeping inside, Caleb Merritt felt something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. Real solid hope. Not for perfection, just for tomorrow, which it turned out was more than enough.